For years, Missouri's biggest selling point was simple. The phrase, "land is cheap." That phrase appeared in every relocation pitch, every real estate listing, every conversation with outsiders considering Missouri as an option. While coastal states priced out middle-class families and Sunbelt markets inflated beyond recognition, Missouri remained the fallback, the place where ordinary people could still afford ground to call their own. That era is fading, not everywhere. Drive deep into rural Missouri, and you'll still find acreage at prices that seem impossibly low to anyone arriving from expensive markets. The bargains have not vanished entirely, not overnight. This is not a dramatic bubble or a sudden spike that generates headlines and forces immediate response. The transformation is gradual, year over year of small changes that accumulate into something significant. But in key corridors, along lakefronts, highway routes, and growth zones where development pressure meets limited supply, it's already happening. Tonight, we're breaking down 15 signs that Missouri's cheap land era is quietly ending, and what that means for people who assumed affordability would last forever. 15. Lakefront prices have detached from local incomes. In many lake-adjacent zones across Missouri, property appreciation has dramatically outpaced wage growth. The gap between what land costs and what local workers earn has widened to levels that seemed impossible a decade ago. Lake of the Ozarks, Table Rock, Stockton, Truman. The shorelines that once offered accessible vacation property now price out families earning Ozark region incomes. That gap creates exclusion. The teachers, nurses, service workers, and tradespeople who staff lake communities increasingly cannot afford to own property in them. They commute from affordable zones to work in expensive ones, a pattern that once characterized coastal cities but seemed foreign to Missouri. When local incomes cannot support local land prices, something fundamental has broken in the relationship between communities and ownership. 14. Highway corridor development is accelerating price growth. Land next to interstates is rising faster than interior acreage, and the gap is widening. The reason is straightforward. Logistics, distribution, and housing expansion follow transportation infrastructure. Companies building warehouses want highway access. Developers building subdivisions want commuter connectivity. Speculators buying ahead of growth want locations where growth will actually arrive. Along Interstate 44, Interstate 70, and Interstate 35 corridors, land that seemed agricultural a decade ago is now evaluated for development potential. The prices reflect not what the land currently produces, but what it might become. Developers buy ahead of infrastructure announcements. By the time highway expansions or interchange improvements become public knowledge, the land nearby has already changed hands, often multiple times, and each transaction raises the price. Interior acreage remains cheaper, but the definition of interior keeps expanding as development corridors widen. 13. Cash buyers are permanently resetting price expectations. When out-of-state buyers purchase Missouri land outright, with no mortgage, no financing contingencies, and no appraisal requirements, they change the market in ways that persist long after the transaction closes. They reset price expectations. Sellers who see neighbors receive cash offers above asking price adjust their own expectations accordingly. The mental anchor of what land should cost shifts upward. They create new comparable sales. Appraisers establishing property values reference recent transactions. When cash buyers pay premiums, those premiums become the baseline for future valuations. They raise the floor permanently. The price level that seemed like a ceiling becomes the new floor. Subsequent sellers will not accept less than what their neighbors received. Cash buyers, retirees from Illinois, investors from Texas, and remote workers from Colorado are not competing on the same terms as local buyers who rely on financing. When they dominate transactions in specific markets, those markets stop functioning the way they historically did. 12. Subdivision fragmentation is reducing large lot availability. Large tracts that once sold as single properties are being split into smaller parcels, 5 acres, 10 acres, 20 acres. Fragmentation. The math favors fragmentation. Developers earn more selling 10 parcels of 10 acres each than selling one tract of 100 acres. That fragmentation increases transaction count, more sales, more activity, and more price discovery, which generally moves values upward. Price, but it reduces large lot availability. Families seeking significant acreage, the 50-acre hobby farm, the 100-acre hunting property, and the multi-generational family compound find fewer options. Missouri used to be acreage flexible. Buyers could find whatever scale they wanted because large tracts remained available and affordable. Affordable. That flexibility is tightening. Large parcels still exist, but they are increasingly held by institutional owners who do not need to sell, or they are priced at levels reflecting their scarcity value. Scarcity. 11. Land is increasingly viewed as insurance against uncertainty. In uncertain economic climates, land becomes something more than an investment or a lifestyle choice. It becomes a form of stability. Stability when financial markets seem volatile. Escape route when urban life feels unsustainable. Backup plan when the future seems unpredictable. Missouri is increasingly viewed as low-risk rural positioning, a place to own ground that provides options regardless of what happens elsewhere. That narrative drives demand from buyers who are not primarily interested in living on the land they purchase. They want to own it. They want the option. They want the security. When land becomes insurance, buyers evaluate it differently. They are not calculating return on investment in traditional terms. They are calculating peace, and peace does not respond to price signals the way investment decisions do. If you are realizing Missouri's land dynamics are shifting in ways you had not considered, subscribe to Hard Truth Untold. This channel exists to explain what is actually happening to places people assumed would stay affordable forever. Hit subscribe. The patterns are accelerating. 10. Remote work unlocked demand that didn't previously exist. Before 2020, Missouri land appealed primarily to people who either lived in Missouri or planned to relocate for Missouri-based employment. The buyer pool was inherently limited by economic necessity. Remote work eliminated that constraint. Workers earning salaries calibrated to Chicago, Dallas, Denver, or San Francisco discovered they could live anywhere with reliable internet. Missouri's land prices, compared to what those salaries could purchase in expensive metros, seemed impossibly low. That demand didn't exist 5 years ago. Now, it's a permanent feature of Missouri's land market. The buyer pool expanded dramatically, and expanded buyer pools drive prices upward. The internet infrastructure that connects rural Missouri to global employment also connects Missouri land markets to national competition. Land that historically traded based on its agricultural productivity, including soil quality, water access, and crop potential, increasingly gets evaluated for alternative uses. Solar farm leasing, carbon credit programs, recreational potential, development speculation. The calculations that determine land value now include possibilities that farmers never considered. When agricultural land competes with non-agricultural buyers, agricultural buyers lose. A farmer calculating returns based on commodity prices cannot match an investor calculating returns based on energy leases or development potential. The highest and best use of Missouri farmland is shifting, and that shift reprices land beyond what agricultural returns can justify. Number 8. Generational transfers are creating market opportunities. The generation that accumulated Missouri land at mid-20th century prices is aging. Death, retirement, and estate planning are putting properties on the market that have not traded in decades. These generational transfers create opportunities for buyers who have been waiting for inventory. They also create price discovery moments. Land that last sold for $500 per acre in 1980 might sell for $5,000 per acre in 2025. Each transaction establishes new benchmarks that affect surrounding properties. The generational wealth transfer happening across rural America includes Missouri. When that wealth moves through property sales rather than inheritance, markets adjust. Buyers increasingly factor timber value into land purchase calculations. Standing timber represents immediate monetizable value on top of land appreciation potential. Sophisticated buyers hire foresters to estimate timber value before making offers. They calculate that harvesting timber might recover significant portions of the purchase price while retaining land ownership. That calculation allows timber-conscious buyers to pay more than buyers who only see ground. When one buyer sees $3,000 per acre in land value and another sees $3,000 in land plus $1,500 in timber, the second buyer wins the property at prices the first buyer cannot match. Timber value effectively raises what buyers can justify paying, and raised justifications become raised prices. Springs, ponds, creek frontage, and river access were pleasant bonuses a generation ago, but today, those water features command significant premiums. As water scarcity concerns grow nationally, buyers increasingly value properties with water resources. A spring-fed pond is not just an aesthetic amenity, it is a strategic asset. Properties with water features sell faster and for more money than comparable dry acreage. That premium gets factored into asking prices throughout regions where water access is possible. Missouri's water resources, taken for granted by locals, look increasingly valuable to buyers arriving from water-stressed regions. Recreational hunting land is not just property anymore. It is an asset class with its own valuation logic, investment thesis, and buyer pool. Hunting clubs, outfitters, and individual enthusiasts compete for prime habitat. Properties with established deer populations, turkey roosting areas, or waterfowl flyways command premiums that have nothing to do with agricultural productivity or development potential. This buyer pool did not exist at current scale a generation ago. The professionalization of hunting land ownership, complete with habitat management, trophy potential marketing, and lease income calculations, transformed how recreational land trades. Missouri's hunting reputation attracts buyers from states with less game, smaller properties, and higher prices. Those buyers arrive willing to pay premiums that reshape local markets. Number 4. Proximity to growth is being priced years in advance. Speculators and developers buy land based on where growth will be, not where it currently is. They acquire positions years ahead of actual development, holding properties until rising values justify their patience. That speculative activity pulls future prices into present transactions. Land near expanding municipalities, planned highway improvements, or emerging employment centers trades at premiums reflecting anticipated rather than current value. By the time growth actually arrives, by the time the infrastructure gets built, the employers move in, and the population expands, the land price already reflects what happened. The appreciation window closed before most buyers recognized it existed. Number 3. Tax advantages are attracting wealth preservation buyers. Missouri's property tax structure is favorable compared to many states, and it attracts buyers seeking tax-advantaged real asset holdings. For wealthy buyers managing portfolios across multiple states, Missouri land represents tax-efficient wealth preservation. Lower carrying costs allow longer hold periods. Favorable treatment of agricultural and timberland reduces the annual tax burden. These buyers are not primarily motivated by using the land, they are motivated by owning it efficiently. Their presence in the market adds buying pressure that raises prices for everyone. 2. The bargain. Reputation is driving its own destruction. Missouri's reputation as affordable attracts precisely the buyers whose arrival makes it less affordable. Every article about Missouri's cheap land reaches readers who might become Missouri land buyers. Every relocation story attracts followers seeking the same opportunity. The marketing of affordability creates demand that erodes affordability. The reputation drives its own destruction. The narrative that Missouri is cheap persists, even as the cheapness narrows to fewer areas, smaller parcels, and less desirable locations. Here is the hardest truth. Once land corridors saturate, once prices rise, ownership consolidates, and development fills available space, they do not go backward. There is no historical pattern of expensive land returning to cheap. Markets that tightened stay tight. Prices that rose do not fall to previous levels. Missouri is not becoming California. The comparison overstates what is happening. Most of Missouri remains affordable by national standards, but Missouri is no longer the untouched bargain state it once was. The cheap land era is not over entirely, but it is narrowing to fewer places, smaller parcels, and lower quality locations. Once corridors saturate, they stay saturated. The window that existed does not reopen for people who assumed it would last forever. Are you seeing these changes where you live? Have prices in your area shifted in ways that surprised you? Are buyers arriving from elsewhere with resources local families cannot match? Is land that seemed ordinary now trading at premiums that seem disconnected from reality? Drop your observations in the comments. Tell me which sign you have witnessed firsthand, or which one surprised you most. And if you want more analysis of the economic forces reshaping Missouri, the patterns that official narratives do not acknowledge, subscribe to Hard Truth Untold. Because affordability does not last forever, and understanding when it is ending matters more than assuming it will continue.